Some more guys there. I see it.
Super.
So we just a second, if we can just wait 1 minute because we have a participant here joining us.
Fantastic. No problem.
Of course.
Who is there? Patrick?
Patrick? Hello.
Hi, Luis.
Andrea from the European Union. Please join us.
Monica, is it possible to mute yourself?
Okay, so I was just welcoming our participant here in the room, and I think we're good to start on our side.
Okay, great. Okay, so Bula Vinaka, good morning in Fiji, good evening from Brussels. This is the information session for the launch of the call for proposals for Switch Asia, which covers Asia and the Pacific. The most important information is that the deadline for submitting the applications is the 12th of December 2023 at noon. My name is Guy Janaway. I'm the Switch Asia Program Coordinator here in Brussels at the European Commission, and I'm joined online by Sebastian Molina and Gelsomina Pedalino, who are responsible for the finance and contracts. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cover the policy context, the priorities, the sectors, and the target groups. And then Gelsomina and Sebastian will cover the finance and contracts rules and how to apply, procedures to follow. And at the end, we will have questions. What we did the Asia session this morning. I think that from experience, the best thing to do is to raise your hand at the end, and we will go through it. Go through the people that have raised their hands. You can also write in the chat, but you'll probably get an answer a bit more clearly if you raise your hand at the end of the session. So just to give you a bit of background on Switch Asia, the main topic is promoting sustainable consumption and production. It was launched back in 2007. It's been very successful, and since January of this year, we've now entered the third phase of Switch Asia, which now covers the Pacific countries. And the idea is that this program supports the transition of the region to a low-carbon, resource-efficient and circular economy, whilst promoting sustainable supply chains and products between Asia, Europe, Asia-Pacific and Europe, actually. And today it also reflects most of the priorities of the European Green Deal and the EU's Global Gateway. It's also a major EU response to the Sustainable Development Goal number 12 in its international cooperation. If we look at the definition of sustainable consumption and production by UNEP, it's the holistic approach to minimizing the negative environmental impacts from consumption and production systems while promoting quality of life for all. And in particular, it zooms in on sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources, sustainable practices by companies, reduction of food losses, and then also on the sectors of waste, such as chemical waste or reducing waste generation, promoting green public procurement practices, and finally strengthening scientific and technological capacities to move towards more sustainable patterns of consumption and production. Very quickly, just to show you an interesting graph, that the greenhouse gas emissions occur mainly due to human activities. You can see the different economic sectors there on your screen. And so industries are highly responsible for this. So we're now at a turning point. And the idea is that it's really crucial that we move from a linear economy to a greener and more circular one. It's not just an option, but it's really essential for us. So it means that there's now a new opportunity to rethink the way we produce and consume, and we change the way our societies function. Now, I mentioned the Global Gateway earlier. You might have heard about it, but if you haven't, it's basically the European model of connectivity in partner countries. and it covers various topics, but the last two bullet points are quite interesting. It focuses on smart and clean and secure investments in quality infrastructure, connecting goods, people and services around the world in a sustainable way. I also mentioned the EU Green Deal. So on the left of the screen, you can see that there are many priorities or targets, such as reducing the impact of energy-intense sectors, promoting circularity of goods and services, sustainable food processing, forest-friendly products, as well as setting standards for products and reducing food loss and waste. Also supporting the uptake of alternative packaging and empowering consumers in their daily choices. And on the right, you've got a few of the EU Green Deal actions which have been published, which I invite you to look up online because they are publicly available. And then there's also a growth strategy. And the idea is that we'll have no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, and that economic growth is decoupled from resource use, and that no person and no place is left behind. Now, what's really important is that Switch Asia has actually got two components. We've got the grant component that we're discussing today, but there's also a policy support component. And so what we're trying to do with this grant component is to support game changers and stakeholders throughout projects, and we test and adopt greener and more sustainable industrial processing in MSMEs, promoting greener products and more sustainable consumption patterns and behaviors in Asia and the Pacific, which leads to this feeding into the policy dialogue with the various governments for the elaboration and implementation of national policies, regulatory frameworks and policy instruments related to SCP, or Sustainable Consumption and Production. And this is all in collaboration with the EU delegations, for example, in Suva, or in Dili, or in Port Moresby, and the focal points of the ministries in the partner countries. Now, I'm not sure if you've managed to read the guidelines yet, but I invite you to do so, because if you look at the section 1.2, you will have the two priorities. I can hear someone talking. Okay, so there are two priorities. So the first one is on sustainable production, and so it will support MSMEs in reducing their greenhouse gas emissions and the environmental impact of their industrial production, improving resource mobilization and efficiency, and adopting circular economy practices. And the second one is on sustainable consumption, engaging with consumers on low carbon practices and sustainable consumption practices. So the project proposals from the applicant should address only one of the mentioned priorities. And just so you know, Switch Asia has already funded around 160 projects since 2007. So we would really ask you to avoid duplication with ongoing and past projects. And we invite you to look at the activities that have already been funded on the website, which is www.switch-asia.eu. And when you go on this page, at the very top, you will see there is a tab called Grants Program, which you can click on. And then there is a very long list of projects. These are just some. So you see that some of them concern agri-foods, or textiles and leather, or transport and logistics. Now, if we look at the total budget, this is, for this call, it's 24 million euros. But for the Pacific, we have allocated 4 million euros. And so the proposal should be between 500,000 euros and 1.5 million euros. The duration is between 36 and 48 months. And when it comes to EU co-financing, the minimum percentage is 50% of the total eligible costs of the action, while the maximum percentage is 80% of the total eligible costs of the action. It's actually 90% if the action takes place only in least developed countries, which I think appear in footnote number 8 in the guidelines. And the balance should be financed from sources other than the EU budget. I also invite you to look at section 2.1.1, which is the target groups. So it's MSMEs, retailers, chambers of commerce, industrial clusters or associations, production centers, farmers associations, Also university and research centres, centres for technology transfer, INGOs, consumer organisations, development organisations, trade federations and labour organisations, and finally, public sector operators. This is a list of the eligible countries in Asia and Pacific, in case there's anyone from Asia logging on this evening. And then if we look at what you can also do is a multi-country proposal. So it's allowed, but within the same lot. And you should show the clear added value of tackling a topic regionally or across borders. However, this should not result in a list of activities carried out nationally. What we suggest is that you include at least one country with a more advanced SEP policy framework, if possible. I'm not sure if this is entirely possible in the Pacific, but let's see. An action should take place only in the eligible countries. However, only a few individual activities, such as conferences and seminars, can take place in other locations mentioned in section 2.1.1 if duly justified and lasting a maximum of 21 non-consecutive days. They should also be clearly indicated in the timeline of the action. What I've written in red is that the implementers and subcontractors of the contract PC 15460, which covers the policy support component, are not eligible under this call for proposals. If we look at the sectors, as I mentioned, it would be ideal if they fit in with the European Green Deal. And so they will target primarily, but not exclusively, the following 5 sectors. So textiles and leather, food sector, which includes agri-food and fishing, building and construction, plastics, and finally, electronics. We look at the type of actions. We would ask you to check examples of both priorities on page 14 of the guidelines, which is section 2.1.4. And please be innovative, but do not reinvent the wheel. Proposals can tackle one or more of these actions within priority 1 or 2. Please read the guidelines and do not mix up the rules for the different priorities. And actions may take place at any of the phases of the product lifecycle. So that means designing, manufacturing, the logistics, distribution, the consumption, or the end of life management. You don't need to cover everything, just concentrate on where you think you can really make a difference. When it comes to the inception activities, the maximum duration would be 4 months for the whole duration of the project, and we would ask you to clearly indicate that in the timeline of the action. Here is a list of the ineligible actions. So it's what's important is underlined. So if it's linked with individual sponsorships, individual scholarships, any activities in the inception or preparatory phase exceeding 4 months, proposals focusing exclusively on farming, harvesting, or really the primary production of raw materials. Training courses should not represent more than 20% of the budget proposed. And finally, financial support to third parties are not eligible. What's also important is the indicators. So we would like you to specify your contribution to at least one of the Sustainable Development Goal targets listed on page 15 or 16 of the guidelines. You're also encouraged to look at DG INTPAS, that's the Directorate General for International Partnerships where I work, on green economy results training and sector indicator guidance. So there's a website there, and include it in your log frame. Include the complementary indicators as relevant in your log frame. Now, here are a few examples of the indicators which appear on the link from the previous slide. I won't go through them because it'll take a very long time. Yes, when it comes to another interesting thing is access to finance, scaling up and reproduction. So it provides the opportunity to test innovative, sustainable consumption practices. And we aim at replicating them. So projects are expected to prepare one or more business cases to be proposed to private and public investors to increase the availability of SEP practices on the market, and also expected to improve the investment climate for green solutions in the Pacific, providing evidence to investors that investing in SEP brings short-term and long-term economic benefits. So the access to finance should not be limited to one specific work package or activity, but it should form an integral part of the overall project design. And projects should address both demand-sided activities targeting beneficiary businesses and complementary supply-sided activities with financial institutions. If you decide to apply for this and you start preparing your proposals, you should really think about a clear analysis. Your consortium composition comes at a second stage based on the expertise required to achieve your objectives. And please make sure that you're fully aware of the national or regional legislations that you wish to address in your project. And on a positive note, your project is the starting point to make a positive change in your country. Please include MSMEs and consumers or their representatives to be sure that you'll reach your final beneficiaries. And you can also include a partner with strong knowledge on the sector or area you wish to cover within your project. You can also think about associating local or national authorities or regional organizations in the Pacific, auditing companies, entities, standardization bodies. And I think in the Pacific, this is quite crucial. Regional organizations can have an accelerating effect in this regard. To reinforce your activities related to the access and finance and the scaling up, we would also invite you to think about associating local national banks, financial institutions, development banks with whom you may start discussions on possible business cases. And please note that there's no formal obligation for your proposal to be endorsed by any ministry or government, and also no additional points will be allocated to proposals submitting such an endorsing document. I now pass the floor to my colleague, Gelsomina, for the finance contracts rules.
Yeah, let's see if I'm able to share my screen this time. Let me know if you see it. Yeah, so I learned. So my name is Gelsomina Pedalino.
I put it in the full screen mode.
Yes. And I knew that that's happened. So let me give me the time to arrive to my part. Okay, so I work for the C4 unit, finance and contract, and of course my presentation will apply. The content of my presentation will deal with the finance and contract rules to apply. Let's start with the partner composition. Each proposal should be submitted by a partnership composed of at least one lead applicant and one or more co-applicants that should be established, should contain at least one organization established from a member state of European Union, the European Economic Area, member countries of the OECD or pre-accession assistance countries, and includes mandatory at least one organization established from an eligible ASEAN Pacific countries, originating from the country where the action will take place. According the eligibility criteria set in the section 2.1 of the guidelines, who can apply? Legal person, no profit organization, private or for-profit organization, public sector or NGO. This time, the international organization as defined by the Article 156 of the Financial Regulation are not eligible under this cause. That means any international organization established with the international agreement by governments are out of this procedure. That means any UN agency, Red Cross, and international public body like this, and the agencies, of course, that belongs to this organization. At the full application stage, the lead applicant may replace a co-applicant if or an affiliated entity only in duly justified cases. This replacement, of course, has to be justified and explained in the application form. And please be aware that the justification may be accepted or not. So the entire proposal could be rejected on that sole basis. Here we have in this graphic chart, we'll have the structure of a membership. Of course, the lead applicant is the main interlocutor of the consortium, will sign the contract and will represent the co-applicants. The co-applicants give mandate to the lead applicant. Sorry, I have my baby that is crying. Let's give me the time to switch off the baby phone, sorry. Okay, sorry for that. And where I was, of course, the co-applicants may have a main role in the implementation and the design of the action, but legally, the financial and the legal responsibility of the membership will be only for led with the lead applicants that will submit proposal, say the contract, and represent the rest of the membership during all the implementation of the contract. Notes the applicants may have affiliated entities, but this never signs a contract. The affiliated entities are entities that have a structural or a capital links with the lead applicant or the co-applicants, are entities that can be directly or indirectly controlled by the applicant. Such as a parent company, daughter company, or first-tier subsidiaries. This is another kind of entities that can have a role and act during the implementation of the project. Of course, the co-applicants must satisfy the same eligibility criteria as per the lead applicants, and all the costs that they incurred during the implementation are eligible. This applies also for the affiliated entities that the eligible costs that they will have are completely reimbursed by the contract. We also have associated and contractors. Associates entities are those ones that entered in a procurement contract with an applicant or delegates for public services for an applicant. But they have a role in the implementation, but they do not receive any funding. Exception is made for the per diem and the travel costs. Contractors, on the other side, are simply services providers. Yes. Now, let's talking about the eligibility of the cost. During the concept note stage, we only need an estimation of the entire budget of the project. While preparing in the second stage, during the full application phase, we will require detailing each cost headings and present a complete budget. Of course, the cost, the eligibility of the costs are those one directly linked to the output and result of the project. And as general rules, has to be realistic and cost effective. In the set of documents that you can download online, please refer to the Annex K of the guidelines, where there is the description of the procedures that can be followed depending on the type and the amount of cost. You will see that there is the possibility to prepare the budget according lump sum and flat rate financing, and according, of course, unit cost. In the budget, we have contribution in kind that are provision of goods and services free of charge by a third party, are not eligible and are not treated as co-financing. But we accept personal costs in the form of volunteers' work. Applicants may not propose financial support to third parties. Granting is not allowed in this cost. We conceive a 7% of estimated total eligible direct costs and indirect costs, and a 5% as a contingency reserved list. All this will be very well explained in this Annex K that you're gonna find in the guidelines. The co-finance, as you know, the project will cover up to the 8% of the eligible direct cost, or up to the 19% of the eligible cost if the action takes place in one of the least developed countries. The difference between the total cost of the action and the amount requested from the contracting authority, if the applicant, it's the co-financing actually. If the applicant requests the maximum percentage allowed, the difference will be co-financing. This co-financing has to be covered using their own funding resources or through via third parties contribution. How to apply? Of course, the concept note must be submitted in English. We know that. We should submit the Annex A.1. The lead applicant's organization has to be registered into PADOR system. The lead applicant has to do it at this stage already, and later on all the co-applicants too will do that. Don't forget to apply, to provide the legal entity form, the documents required in the PADOR portal. The submission of the proposal, you know, it will be done via our IT tool Prospect. Don't wait until the very last available day. And don't forget, very, very, very important, the grant application form plus the mandatory declaration that you're gonna find point 2 of the concept notes. The number of application and grants per applicant, the lead applicant may submit more than one application per lot, but may not be awarded more than one grant. The lead applicants also may not be a co-applicant or an affiliated entity in another application. A co-applicant may be co-applicants or affiliated in more than one application, but also in this case, only one grant will be awarded per lot. Yes. The evaluation will take place through three steps. The first step, all the concept notes will be evaluated, and only those ones that will score, will pass the thresholds of the 30 points will be ranked. The second step will entails with the highest ranking application per target countries, sorry. And the third one, only the highest ranked application will be demanded to provide a full application form. During the full application form, of course, the quality of the action, the budget, the administrative, professional, and financial capacity of the lead applicants will be evaluated. In case of multi-countries project, Guys has already told that the candidate must clearly specify in the concept note which is the principal countries where the project will take place. Here we have the timeline, the deadline for the submission of question will be the 21 of November. We will at latest publish the answer on the 1st of December. And of course, we will answer only to questions that have arrived to our functional mailbox that you see here. The deadline for the concept note, it's the 12th of December. Then we will have the administrative check and the technical evaluation by the end of December, January 2024. The communication of the result will take place on February. And for the deadline for sending the full application will be on May, and ideally the evaluation will take place of the full application will take place on June, and the notification of the award will be on August, and finally we will sign the contract of September 2024. It seems a lot of time, but they will gonna pass very, very fast. So thank you. We have finished. You can.
Thank you, Gelsomina. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, I don't know if in Suva if you can actually raise your hand, but otherwise, just we're not that many, so either raise your hand or you can take the floor. Unless everything is really, really clear.
Anyway, we will share these recordings, and we will also share the presentation. We will send it. We will publish it on via the website of the program.
I see, Christian, you have raised your hand. Very brave of you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's very helpful. I just had a couple of questions for you, Guy. It says that for the Pacific there is a 500,000 euro minimum, and that that can fund up to 80% of the proposal. Just to be clear, that would mean that the applicant would need to come up with at least 100,000 euros in associated funding to qualify. Is that right?
For me, that makes mathematical sense, yes. But
Yes.
I would double check with Gelsomina, yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned the length of the project, but I didn't quite catch it. Was it a maximum of 4-month project, or was it the minimum?
No, the 4 months was related to the inception phase. It's the starting of the activities, of the project activity. There is the limit that can be done only at maximum during the first 4 months. The duration of the project is like the minimum is now I don't remember, sorry, 38 months.
36.
And the maximum is 48, yes.
Okay, so it's a 3-year minimum project,
Yeah.
and 3 to 4 years. Okay. And you did mention also about it's better to do this in countries that have a policy alignment with the SCP, but there might be some flexibility for Pacific countries. I'm just wondering what that would look like in practice.
No, I'm just aware that compared to, let's say, the Asian countries that Switch Asia has been dealing with, perhaps that bullet point was not, how do I say, customized to the Pacific. I'm not 100% sure. Perhaps the colleagues in Suva can help me, but I'm not sure if a lot of the Pacific countries have got sustainable consumption and practice sort of legislation, or if it's ingrained in their law.
And it was the process this works was that there would be a project that then flows on to policy developments. Is that the way that things proceed in those steps? Project first, policy next, or is it a bit more feedback related?
It's a bit more feedback. It's a bit more circular, to be honest. The policy support component of Switch Asia feeds into the grant component, and the grant component feeds into the policy support component.
Okay. Yeah, they were sort of the questions I had. I'm going to have a better look through the website, and
Okay.
but yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. I don't see anyone else with their hand up. Yeah, Monica. Monica Nicolman.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question. India is mentioned as a possible lead applicant country, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
and as far as we know, if India is a lead applicant, it cannot forward any money to any partners outside the country. Are you aware of that? And we contacted our Indian partners. They say the regulations haven't changed.
Are you saying? Sorry, I didn't quite understand. India would send money to other countries?
If India would be the lead applicant, it would have a partner, at least one partner outside of the country, right?
Yeah, India would
Yeah.
have. You need to have an EU member state or an EEA.
Exactly. But as far as we know, Indian organizations cannot forward any money to partners outside the country as per law. But
That I'm not
according
sure
to
about.
our
You've
Indian
already got,
partners,
like,
the situation
yeah.
has not changed so far. That's why I was wondering.
I'm not entirely sure because we have already some grant projects going on in India, and I'm not sure I've really understood, because from what I understand, the money would have to be spent on a
Yes.
project in India itself.
Yes, maybe the lead applicant can be not an Indian organization. Maybe it can be the European or a partner based in other countries, as the lead applicant will be the financially responsible for the budget, for the financial resources of the project. Maybe this can be a solution that instead of allow making pass the money via India, the lead applicant will be another entities established in another place.
Yeah, sure.
And the action will take place in India. But
I was just wondering because it was mentioned as a possible lead applicant. That's why I'm asking the question. Yeah, then
okay.
there is no solution as of for that, obviously.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Sebastian Molina here. So the problem is that from India, organizations, they cannot do payments outside in India?
Yes.
And why?
That is some legal constraints. I can tell you which paragraph it is, but that is the legal constraint, and we checked back with our partner recently, and they said it has not changed, and hence I'm wondering why it is named as a lead applicant.
Yeah. Not even using this Hawala system, do you know?
No, because an organization, I think, would not use this, and you cannot. No, this is not possible.
Yeah.
But thank you. There seems no solution to this yet.
I'm a bit puzzled. I think the best thing is if you send us an email with this article that you mentioned to the functional mailbox, and we can look into it. But it
Yes.
seems very bizarre because we have many successful grant projects that have taken place in India before.
Recently started, because this should be 2 years old, 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
The change in legislation.
So please send us an email and we'll look into it.
A possible solution, but it will depend on the nature of the project and where it will be implemented, is to open the bank account somewhere else, not in India. but perhaps this is also a constraint for the organization to open a bank account outside India. Well,
Yeah, I think it should be an ordinary solution if there is a project going on. But I'll send an email. Thank you so far.
Okay. Thank you, Monica. I see that Stephen has raised his hand.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and for this opportunity to raise some questions. I do note this is a very great and inspiring project. It's new in the Pacific, definitely. So my question is, you mentioned earlier on in your comments that you discourage duplication of projects that have been implemented previously in 2007, from 2007, when you started this project in the other regions. So my concern is, what if while scrolling through the previous successful projects that you've implemented, we realize that probably some of them are applicable to this region? Would that be a disqualifying factor?
No, I think what is meant by that is, I'll give you a very concrete example. I went to visit a rice project in Indonesia last month that was funded by this grant. And if you were to replicate exactly the same project in Indonesia for low carbon rice, then that wouldn't be very interesting. But because it's specific and it's new, you have a bit more flexibility and you can get inspired by what's on the website.
Thank you. That clarifies. We look forward to following up on where we can engage.
Super. EU Del Fiji Room 1.
Thank you very much, Guy. We also have a question here from our room from the Samoan representative, please.
Thank you for the presentation on this activity. My name is Luis. I'm from the Samoa High Commission in Suva. I just have a few questions on the project. First one is in terms of managing and also monitoring the activities. Are you assigning any particular organizations or, let's say, regional organization to look after this part? We are aware we have a few regional countries that blacklisted in the EU because of taxation issues. Would that be an issue for some of those countries' organization to have access to the funds? And your definition of SMEs, is there a threshold for you? I mean, I know in the Pacific, probably across the Pacific, it's most of the business are probably under. I don't know how you defining that. So just to get some clearance, and also on consultancy commissions, is that eligible to be covered under, to be included? Most of us in the Pacific, we probably engage a lot of these, consultancy to try and do proposals for some of the companies. So those are some of the questions that I wish to raise for your clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm happy to take the second question on the blacklisting. What I would suggest is that you look at the list of eligible countries and you stick to that one. And then for the other three questions, I would invite Geltomino or Sebastian to answer those.
Sebastian, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we can say, okay, no, Guy, just to emphasize what you said, for the blacklisting countries, there is no relation of that. We understand that some blacklisted countries could have eventually problems of receiving money. It happens sometimes. It depends on the bank's use, etc. But they are eligible anyway. So as Guy said, the eligible countries are there in the guidelines mentioned. So for the use of consultants, etc., yes, of course, those will be services providers. So the grants, the projects will hire furnitures, perhaps consultants, services. So if it fits within the activities of the grant, yes, that is eligible. And then the other thing that you mentioned, sorry, the size of the enterprise, the medium, small enterprise. This is not a requirement per se. So any eligible entity can apply regardless their size or even their turnover. So the guidelines doesn't fix any ceiling for that. Is it clear or more clear now?
Yes, thank you for clarification.
Okay. I don't see any other people that have raised their hands. Suva, you have any more questions? New delegation in Suva? It was all clear for you. Yeah.
Here for us, thank you.
Okay. Well, we encourage you to apply before the 12th of December, and we wish you a pleasant Thursday in the Pacific.
Thank you very much to everybody. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And thanks to
guys.
Brussels for staying very late for us here.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Cheers.
Well.
There's my hand raised.